Hello everybody, Dagmar Bryant, Mindset and Transformational Coach, coming to you today to talk about emotional well-being. Yesterday's video was about who are you and defining ourselves. Well, our emotional well-being is one of those things that defines ourselves. It's all the experiences that we have throughout our lifetime. Sometimes those experiences can be a little bit negative, and that's actually what helps us to grow and when we face challenges, we actually learn, we actually become better as human beings on a soul level. And like I said, some of those emotional things cannot always be positive, but when we learn from them, we actually move our life forward. I can think of a few situations in my own life where I've had some emotional scars, and I guess I would ask you, maybe you don't have to share on this one, but what are your emotional scars? What situations have you had in your life where you have felt emotionally really drained and that's had a significant impact on your life? As people, we need to work on that because we don't want to be carrying that like the weight on our shoulders for the rest of our life, because that can have an impact on future situations. Let me give you an example. If, for example, you had a boyfriend who physically abused you or emotionally abused you, well, you probably need to get some kind of therapy or healing to help you with that, because if you don't work on that, if you then move out of that situation and have another boyfriend, your first reaction might be one of mistrust. It might be one of not deeply going into that particular new relationship. And it can take longer for us to redevelop those bonds of trust where we really feel like that we can open up. I remember quite a few years ago now, having a very difficult situation with my father when I gave up law. Law for him was something that he was very proud of. His oldest daughter. I was the number one daughter in a lot of ways for many years, because here I was achieving, I was doing very well for myself, I was working hard, and hey, we are going to have a lawyer in the family. I think it was a huge sense of pride for him, even being able to tell other people about that. What do you think happened when I quit law? Well, it was the biggest fall from grace. All of a sudden, I wasn't number one daughter, I was the daughter who wasn't even spoken to. And not being in law was almost as an embarrassment to him, because I went and had my own business, I studied Reiki, and he didn't want to know about that. He said, once you go down that path, you will never be able to go back. And there were times when he just didn't even speak to me. It was almost like I was that real black sheep in the family. So that left an emotional scar, and it left an emotional strain on our relationship. I guess the only saving grace for me is, I did have to do a lot of work to help myself deal with that, but I knew that my father was a very unwell man, so I knew some of the things that he was saying didn't really come from him, but even though they did, if you know what I mean, I will tell you he was an alcoholic, and that was really hard to deal with, some of the things that he was saying, because it was almost like you were dealing with another person. Emotional scars can also make us stronger if we choose to look at them that way. Another situation in my own life, I was married to the man who was my kid's father, and one year, this is right before the end, and it was my 30th birthday, and I had said to him, I'd really like to have a few friends over, it'd be lovely to have a party, and that was going to be on the following weekend, and I can't even remember what day of the week my birthday was on. It might have been a Wednesday or a Thursday, but on my actual birthday, he used to work shift work, and he came home, and I'd had no presents, no card, no nothing. And he came home from his shift, and it was 9 o'clock at night. But I said to him, well, is that it? Like nothing? And he says, well, what do you want? It's just another day. Man, that cut. But it was like a spiritual slap. My guardian angels were really saying, what the frick are you still doing in this relationship? Like, if you haven't had the signs by now, get out. And that really propelled me to take action because, it was a man who didn't see values the same as I did, who didn't have the same belief systems. And a little thing like a birthday for me was important. It's a little validation of who I am, and that was important to me. Didn't see it that way, but that actually made me stronger. So like I said, maybe today isn't one of those days where you might want to share. Maybe take this one in for yourself. What is it with your emotional well-being that has shaped you? What are the scars that you might still be holding that you need to work on? But most of all, what has made you stronger? Hope that's been of inspiration to you. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you again another day.